Well, the greatest day in motorsports for 2025 is officially wrapped up. Back. Am I back?
You're back now. There you are.
A little bit here.
He was frozen in carbonite. Don't worry.
We're official. It's still giving me the. We might not be okay here, so we'll edit the intro out here. It's been that kind of weekend for everybody. Welcome to Grid Encore, ladies and gentlemen. I think we're set now. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, all good, all good.
All right. I knew I dipped for a second and then I wasn't sure, but we are good to go now. Welcome back. And as I said, I'm back after a 2-week absence. Grateful for everybody at the Grid Network team that stepped up and kept this show running while I enjoyed some time away. But there's a lot to talk about. As I mentioned, obviously, Monaco, Indy, Charlotte, one of the biggest weekends of the year for the world of motorsports, Xfinity and trucks, and ARCA also in action at Charlotte. ARCA West out in Colorado, a race that didn't even get to the halfway point before it was called. We'll get into that much later on in the show. And then, of course, we'll run down the F2 and F3 results from Monaco as well. But Joe Samniego, our leader, is back with us as well. Joe, good to see you again. How are you?
Doing great. Good to see you all. Just one of those deals. We're going to get into the messy reason why I'm here with Indy.
Yeah, and Brandon, thanks again. You were working hard to keep the show going while I was away, but good to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing fine. You could say I was working hard, but really I was hardly working because our other fearless leader, Kobe Lambeth, and also Joe here were hard at work making sure I sounded the best as possible, and basically a propped up mannequin version of you here for 2 weeks. So I think it went well, but we sure did miss your presence here, and it is another Motor Monday.
Yeah,
also, Motor Monday after the Christmas of motorsports here yesterday.
Yes, I've got my Baja Blast ready to go here myself. I think I might need it for what we have to start the show with here. But once again, just thank you to both of you, to Kobe, and also to Matthew Owens and Tanner Smith, who filled in while I was away. And also want to say thank you to Amber, who's watching us here in the chat, one of our regulars. Good to see you again, Amber. And as always, to our Patreon supporters. If I can find the graphic here, we've got a lot of races to recap here tonight, so we'll find it eventually. There we go. Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew, thank you all so much for your continued support here of this channel. Thank you, Joe, for pulling me on the full screen there. If you like what you see tonight, you can consider joining them in investing in what we do here at the Grid Network, or if you'd rather make a one-time contribution to us instead. If you're watching on YouTube like Amber is, you can tip us through Super Chat, or you can visit the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below as well. And thank you again to those of us who have already contributed to what we're trying to build here, including Amber. I guess 5 times there is what the 5 cups means there. So if you want to get your name on the leaderboard, tip us with a one-time donation. We greatly appreciate it. Buy me a coffee, buy me some more Baja Blast, whatever you choose here. We greatly appreciate all the support. Now, like Joe hinted at here, we have to start with what I guess is probably not breaking news anymore. I think most people have heard by now, but Andretti and Prema Racing in a little bit of trouble following the Indianapolis 500 yesterday. Their finishes have basically been wiped from the books. They've been relegated to 31st, 32nd, and 33rd, respectively. That's drivers Marcus Ericsson, Kyle Kirkwood, and Callum Ilott. They did not pass post-race inspection, and this comes, of course, on the heels of Team Penske not passing inspection with their number 2 and number 12 cars driven by Joseph Newgarden and Will Power. That relegated them to the back row of the starting grid. Newgarden, of course, had some troubles. Well, all the Penske cars really had troubles. I think Will Power was 19th, which will probably be 16th or 17th now with the results having changed. But not a good day for Penske at all, with Scott McLaughlin crashing, not even coming to the green, coming off of the grid to start the formation laps. And Joseph Newgarden with mechanical issues dashing his hopes at a three-peat. But Brandon, we'll start with you. What was your reaction to the news that we got earlier this afternoon, the 500 results being changed a little bit? I guess we should be thankful Ericsson didn't win the race. What a mess that would have been. It already is a mess, but can you imagine having done all the media and then finding out that you failed post-race tech and you're going back to the last row?
Absolutely. That would have been a PR disaster, and we didn't need any more of that. I mean, it already is pretty upsetting after the news from the qualifying days in Team Penske, and now you've got this from Andretti Global after the conclusion of the Indy 500. That official statement said the number 27 and number 28 entries from Andretti Global, the number 90 from Prema Racing have been moved to the rear. of the Indianapolis 500 field after failing post-race technical inspection. All 3 cars have been reordered based on their unofficial finishing positions. Additionally, each car has been fined $100,000, and the team competition managers for the next 3 entries have been suspended for 1 race to be served at the next event on the streets of Detroit. So we're having more suspensions there with team and competition managers in this case as well. You've got the big slap on the wrist with the $100,000. But what a heartbreak here for the story of. I mean, I was literally just writing about my story for yesterday for Race Face Digital was going to be about Marcus Ericsson and his runner-up finish, which is currently being edited and changed here because of the news that came out just about 4 hours ago. But yeah, and also Marco Andretti, who spun there on the first lap after the heartache for Scott McLaughlin, would just put like a big L on the entire Penske Racing day. And then Prema with Kyle Milot, not really sure where they ended up finishing, but it doesn't matter anymore. It's what do we have?
They were 12th, so I guess they get sent back to. They'll be the last car article, 33rd. Yeah,
it's just it's just some news you really don't want to hear and wish wasn't a problem, but it obviously shows that there is some more manipulating or trying to push the limits of the rules in a way that may not be honest. Andretti, IndyCar and Indy Next X account put out, we are in receipt of the Indianapolis 500 post-race penalty notice as provided by INDYCAR. We are taking the necessary time to assess the information and will be requesting a full review with INDYCAR. So it kind of reminds me of Ben, you and I on the NASCAR side. It kind of reminds us of all these penalties that have gone to Richard Childress Racing and places like that, where they always say, we're planning to appeal. We're planning to do, here not repeal, but to have it reviewed and maybe have a discussion in a boardroom somewhere. But on surface level, we don't know too much more about this. I think we know a lot less about it right now than we do about the Team Penske situation, which is, we said last week, easily one of the biggest stories in American open wheel racing since the split, since we've been alive. I mean, it's really hefty stuff, and I really didn't want another team to be a part of that. But it appears on the surface here that Andretti Global may have a hand in some of that too.
I certainly have some thoughts on that, but I will let Joe give his first here. Joe, what was your reaction to these penalties that came out earlier this afternoon?
Started off as shock. We had just wrapped up the Grid Life wrap-up show. We were backstage, myself, Tanner Smith, Jonathan Fields from the Racing Expert, and Kobe Lambeth, and we get the big breaking news, and we avoided a big mess. Had Marcus Ericsson maintained the lead, gotten the win. Can you just imagine the mess? Because we now know one of the most viewed Indy 500s in a long time, over 7 million viewers, and we know the history of the Indy 500 is there's a big drop-off that following race weekend. Everyone watches the race, and then they find out, not on the Monday newspaper, but Tuesday newspaper or late Monday evening, by the way, Ericsson did not win that race. That would have just made a huge mess for IndyCar. And granted, IndyCar is already in a big mess. I think a lot of folks questioning the credibility of the tech inspection of Roger Penske, the race officiating, the leadership of Roger Penske himself too, I feel, is under a big question as how good of a leader do we have? Where is the conflict of interest? So overall, I just think now that remaining hours since the initial announcement, I just think this is going to make a bigger worst case scenario storm for Roger Penske, the leadership of IndyCar and the teams. And that's really dreadful. I mean, here we are. We know Alex Palou has been to talk about the IndyCar season, what he's doing, just dominating such a historic run. And that's, again, being overshadowed by these penalties. From the Andretti statement, I'm curious if Andretti's going to make an argument like this could be retaliation or this is a very harsh penalty, in which case people can now say, well, we gave Roger a very harsh penalty through Team Penske. So overall, I think it's going to be one of those deals where this is going to be the start of, I think, a not so pleasant few weeks at IndyCar for the teams in IndyCar. And the next race, downtown Detroit, right outside the GM headquarters, home race for essentially Roger Penske, Chevrolet, Ilmor Engines, all his business partners. This is not going to be a fun few weeks for them.
Certainly interesting to have that be the next race, Joe, going to the streets of Detroit and being it's usually called Penske's Playground, at least when it was at the Belle Isle location. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting media center interviews during the during practice and qualifying, and also more questions. I think the Fox broadcast team, they were some of the first to like really ask some of the hard questions immediately. Like I would, Will Buxton, I think he's very used to the whole landscape of Formula One drama and digging into scandals and things like that. But I was really just off topic, I guess. I was really surprised at how quickly Will Buxton and company there on Fox were quick to start talking about the problems at hand. Before we ever had a Jamie Little YouTube video talking with Roger Penske, before we had other things, they were really like going at it, like, I guess it was shocking because I thought maybe they were going to, err on the side of, let's wait till we know more information, but it felt a little more like going at it early.
Yeah, well, and Kobe here, also in the chat, and Kobe, we'll get to your question on Larson and McLaughlin as well, because that's certainly been a big talking point from the Kyle Larson fans. But press release said the modifications gave Andretti a performance advantage. Not a good look. Even engineers say Penske didn't gain an advantage from what they did. I know Jackson Lambros, when he was on Grid Tonight, was saying smoothing out the attenuator, he thought maybe a third of a mile an hour on the straights aerodynamically, that would maybe give you something. I mean, it was more the integrity of looks like we've lost all connection again here, so
we got you.
You got me back? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Not sure when I cut out, but I was referencing Jackson's comments on Grid Tonight about it being a negligible at best essentially advantage, if anything, for the Penske modifications. That was more modifying a spec part as opposed to what's allowed in the rule book. Obviously it wasn't, and that's why the penalties were so harsh here. But again, it just is reference again to the conflict of interest of having the man that owns the Speedway and the series also own a team that competes in the series and competes very successfully. I know Matt mentioned on Grid Tonight as well how excited we were when the news came out 6 years ago that Penske had made this purchase. But I at the time, I remember saying back in the days when I was doing my Scout radio show as a college student, like, well, Tony George used to own Vision Racing. That was kind of a conflict of interest when he was in charge of the Speedway and everything. And I don't know, Vision Racing, with all due respect to the people that were working on that team, didn't have nearly the amount of success and pedigree that Roger Penske's team has. So it's not hard to imagine that they would be under a much bigger microscope than Vision was. But maybe they could make it work. And Roger stepped off of the pit box, to his credit, and I think has done a decent job up until now, trying to keep that conflict of interest to a minimum. But at the end of the day, his name is on the series and his name is on those cars. You can't get around that. And so I think it's still not a great look. And I think that, I like what James Hinchcliffe said on the Awful Announcing podcast. I know it's not an exact comparison here to say Roger Goodell doesn't own an NFL team because he's a commissioner as opposed to a league owner. But, Ryan McGee went on Pat McAfee's show and said, when you look at, imagine Jerry Jones purchasing the NFL and then still running the Cowboys and the Cowboys getting involved in a cheating scandal. Like, it was already not a good week for IndyCar. And then you couple that now with these penalties coming out almost 24 hours after the race finishes, much like what we've seen in NASCAR more than ever this year, I might add. I mean, we had another one this week with Sammy Smith we'll get into in the Xfinity Series. His fifth place result, I believe it was, sending him back to the back of the pack, back of the results because they failed tech. I just don't love what is happening now, where it seems like almost every week there is somewhere in some series at least one car or one team that is being caught bending the rules. And I'm glad that they're doing something about it, trying to protect the integrity of the sport that way. But this is not what I want to be talking about. This is not a precedent that I want to be setting here. And I watched David Land's video, David Land reacting to this earlier today. And, I was reminded of a conversation that I had with our director of library services at my day job at Gordon. Is much older than I am, but he grew up going to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He was telling me a story of when he saw AJ Foyt win his third race in 1967, and when that $6 ball bearing in Parnelli Jones's turbine failed, and thinking about what a different era that was, where, yeah, you could show up with a turbine and something completely different from the rest of the field. You had the front engine roadsters and the rear engine cars, and that 60s era. And I know that era so well because I played the Indianapolis 500 Legends video game. With such a completely different, it was just a different time. You could show up and do something radical and see, Jack Brabham showing up in 61 and, really not having the advantage on the straights, but that rear engine that he was driving to wherever he finished, I think in the back end of a top 10, giving him that performance advantage in the turns. And then within just a few years, everybody was running rear engine cars. Now we have two engine suppliers. And aside from that, we have a universal aero kit now, and even the slightest modification to these parts here, even if in the case of Penske, it doesn't provide a performance advantage, everything is under such a microscope that you can't change the slightest possible thing to these parts, or else you're going to get slapped with massive penalties, and you're going to have to fire personnel at your team that have been there for years. I mean, I've got to be honest. I did not, again, watching David's video, did not realize just how integral Tim Cindric has been for as long as he has been. I know that he was kind of in position to take that team over one day, and has been such an integral part of that team for so long. But I mean, it's astonishing when you think about the personnel decisions and firings that happened earlier this week. So then to, again, have this news come out today, it just felt like the cherry on top, what has been the worst 500 month of May experience that I can think of in my lifetime. And Joe, I know you mentioned this. We were talking backstage before we came on the air here. And I have no problem saying it on the air because I put it out there on Twitter. It's out there for everybody to see now. For the first time since 2006, which was a time before Pixar's Cars came out, before I even knew what this sport was. I was born in 1999. So for the first time since I've been a race fan, I did not watch a single lap of the Indianapolis 500 live on television. And there's a whole multitude of reasons for that, we could be here for the next 3 hours, me just spewing off every single problem I have with this series right now, why I'm so apathetic. I dropped the Drake and Josh line on Grid Tonight a couple of weeks ago. Like I said, I'm not mad at you. I'm done with you. That's just how I feel right now about the series. And I guess I shouldn't have said that because I do still care enough to be talking about it on our show right here tonight. I am upset that Penske and Andretti have been caught in this situation here. But I struggled for so long to get into it this year. I was wondering where the hype was. And then I saw on Saturday evening that quote coming out from the Speedway, once again, we're going to do everything in our power to give the fans a green flag finish, do whatever it takes. And that was the trigger I needed to say, yeah, I can't do this. I'm too worried that some sort of shenanigan is going to happen. And I need to take the last day of my break and put myself in a better headspace here. And so I didn't watch the race. And honestly, I was expecting to be tempted to turn it on at some point or feel like I was missing out on something. And I'm completely at peace. I don't regret it one bit. Now, I'm not trying to, believe me, I've been a part of the conversations where it's like, it's not an airport. You don't need to announce your departure. I'm not going to say, oh, I've been a fan for 20 years. I'm never watching this stupid sport again. And anybody that's still watching this is... like of course, if you watched the race, I don't begrudge those who did. Those that were at the race, 350,000 people in the stands. It must have been a thrilling experience. It's still on my bucket list one day. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a great time. I really do. I'm just telling you, as somebody that has not liked the direction that this series has gone the last couple of years in particular, it was not virtually. I didn't watch. It was impossible for me to get into it this year. And I never thought I'd say that about what I still believe in many respects is the greatest race in the world. But I love this sport. I follow this series to such a degree that it's impossible to tune out all the noise. I'm not just a casual that lives locally and it's part of a local culture and tradition. And we're going to go to the Speedway and watch this race every year and, try to learn about the drivers as we're there. Like, no, I know this sport. I know these people. I know these teams. and it left such a sour taste in my mouth, and I couldn't get into it this year. And it's sad. It's frustrating to me that that's where we're at. But like I said, to get this news here today, well after the checkered flag, just even further makes me feel confident and good in my decision that, yeah, this just I needed some time away from it this year, and maybe next year I'll feel differently. But 7 million people watched the race. I can't complain about that. Fox. I heard from people that the booth was all right. The production value wasn't very high quality from Fox in many other respects, but I don't know. It's a very frustrating time to be an IndyCar fan when you think of everything going on in this series right now, and to have all of that infiltrate the month of May, just very disheartening to me. That's all I can say about it.
One of the things, this is not just also this year, month of May. Last year, we had the push a pass scandal at St. Pete's. Gets caught really much later at Long Beach because Penske's team accidentally used it, and that's when IndyCar caught them. You have that from last year. You got this from this year. I think it really is hurting credibility. We're hearing a lot of folks critical of Roger Penske that you own the team, you own the series, you own the racetrack. There's a conflict of interest, and no matter what Roger wants to claim that, oh, I don't talk to the team, you still have an influence. It may not be a direct influence, but everyone knows when Joseph Newgarden car pulls up to the tech line, that's Roger Penske's own car. He doesn't need to be there to be like, hey, make sure everything's okay. But you just know there might be a little bit of pressure of, do I want to be the person to raise this concern I may have, or just let it go by? The other thing is this series has really changed so much from what you said, Ben, of bring what you brought. 1994, Roger Penske, Team Penske brings the beast. They just dominated that Indianapolis 500, nearly leading the entire race, nearly lapping the entire field to Fittipaldi crash, handed the win to Al Unser Jr. Now IndyCar, almost a spec series, and we got Marty spec parts. The big thing was with Penske, you got this penalty because you're dealing with a safety device with that attenuator to ensure drivers don't get hurt when they back into the wall. Now that we see this from Andretti, oh, this could give them a performance advantage. The front wing from Prima and Callum Ilott. Back in the day, folks who remember IndyCar, especially kart, those front wings will be covered as much as possible so you didn't see the work the teams were doing to get that advantage. I think this is something where, along with potentially looking at, okay, we announced we're going to have an independent board or commission or whatever to come up with a plan for officiating tech inspection without them being Penske employees. We're overdue for a new car. What do we want of the series? Do we want to be more spec, keep the cost low? Because you do that, all these teams are going to be looking for ways to find that advantage. You could go back to kart, where a lot of times the chassis, Reynard, Dallara, the engines, you had Cosworth, Ford, Toyota, Honda. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more pricier, but maybe it might be a better combination compared to a nearly spec series. And if this is the case, where now race officiating is going to be, we're going to be really strict on all the rules. What if we see more disqualifications week after week after week? I think that's going to get old. It got old with Formula E 2 years ago. This series, I think, is just, it's a need of, I mean, Doug Boll, I think, did a great job calling that press conference, explaining why he moved Newgarden, Will Power to the back row. He's going to have a very busy few weeks of just trying to put at ease the fans of the series, the sponsors, stakeholders that put in money, the teams and the drivers, that we're got to have a good level, fair playing field, and something where we could win the credibility back. Because right now, I think it's as low as really since the 2002 Indy 500, where the controversial caution coming out as you had Helio Castroneves leading. Here comes Paul Tracy trying to become the third consecutive kart driver to win an IRL event. I feel like that was a low point because that went to the courts. I think this could be a low point, and where you might hear people talk about another division, which we do not need another split in open wheel racing in America.
Goodness, no. No, we're already like flirting with that on the NASCAR side. We certainly don't need that again with open wheel in America. No.
And Joe, I'm glad you brought up the push pass scandal from last year, because I mean, you want to talk about changing the results a day later. I mean, those results were changed 45 days later, right? And that's still the biggest question I have. That attenuator violation, maybe it wasn't on the car during the race last year as Joseph Newgarden won. I don't know. I must admit, I just told you how disillusioned I was. I kind of tuned out the news for the last part of last week. I don't know if anything further came out of that. You guys can tell me if it did. But Marshall Pruitt sends that video out. That same violation was on that car that's at the IMS museum of that winning car from last year. Why did we not find out about the push-to-pass scandal for a month and a half? Why did we not find out about this attenuator issue that Penske had been messing with for almost a full year? And I got to say, because I watched the shows that you guys did while I was away, and you guys did a good job, like I mentioned in the intro. Tanner Smith coming out and saying, you heard it here first, kind of, if somebody else comes out with a violation, other teams are probably doing this. He gets to take a victory lap today.
Like crystal ball.
What happened, right? Yeah. That's what happened.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, man, that's a bold statement to make. Everybody else passed Tech, Penske didn't. I mean, I feel like it's pretty, but
until it comes true.
Andretti still bent the rules somehow.
Yeah.
Prema still bent the rules somehow.
Prema too.
Yeah, I mean, it's so. I'm so frustrated as a race fan today, because I want to be talking about Alex Palou, and there's a small part of me that wishes he won Long Beach, because what a stretch that would be, an undefeated start to the year. I mean,
yeah,
he has literally been second. His worst. Remember when we were saying his worst finish all year is 8th? How amazing that was. There's still a long way to go in the season, but his worst finish of the year is 2nd.
He can take care of it.
Yeah. I mean, this is the Gibbs 18 car in ARCA. This is Max Verstappen in 2023. I mean, he is, and I, quite honestly, we're 27 minutes into the show. We haven't really talked about the winner, which again is a frustrating point to be in with the state of his series. But congratulations to Alex Palou, thoroughly
the first ever Spaniard.
First ever Spaniard. Ganassi, wonderful job all year, really. I was going to say all month, but all year. Yeah, they are unrivaled right now. And quite honestly, I know Kobe was saying that, the whole deal with McLaren and Ganassi and that, I mean, everybody remembers the Piastri situation. I think people might have forgotten at this point. Alex Palou had something very similar with McLaren, but maybe that turned some F1 people off in the paddock. Maybe it didn't. We'll see. It has been a few years, but if you want to talk about putting an American star in your car, if you're Cadillac, I know, like we just said, Palou's from Spain, but he's built a name for himself in an American series. He's very familiar to American audiences. If you want to talk about putting somebody who can maybe move a needle here in the United States among American race fans in your car, who has experience, who clearly has the talent, and he's going to have the super license because he gets the full 40 points because he's won the last 2 championships. He doesn't have to worry about that. He should maybe be an option for Cadillac there, but that should be the story. And yet everybody today is talking about Ericsson and Kirkwood and Andretti, flashing back to the Penske penalties that we've been talking about for the last week plus now. It's all just very frustrating. That's the only word that I can come up with to continue to describe this month of May.
Yeah, that's the exact words that Marcus Ericsson had mainly yesterday. It was just, it's frustrating. But I mean, little did he know. I mean, I want to go ahead and stop people that are putting all of their animosity on the drivers in the cockpit. I mean,
that's a good point. Yeah,
that's just unacceptable. Yeah, they might as well. I mean, we have no reason to believe that they're a part of those manipulating the rule processes in any way. So, and until we do have any proof of that, let's leave drivers out of the equation.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's very interesting because, when it comes to like the push to pass, the incinerator, it's engineers, crew members looking, it's like, where do we find anything for that? 0.3 of a mile per hour, some sort of advantage. When you have a series that's nearly spec like this one, I mean, it just makes it really challenging for all the teams to find that edge. And on top of that, as we saw with the race, with the hybrid unit, which we know was a little bit of a not so great introduction, has made passing even harder. I'm starting to wonder how much that also played a little bit of factor of, okay, we're just really trying to find something, because passing was very hard. And really, like what Pato War said, he sort of felt like Ericsson choked to allow Palou to sneak on the inside, get that lead. That was a win and move. It was what, last year? That would have not been the win and move. The win and move would have been the last lap coming down to that backstretch, because everyone was just drafting and passing each other. We did not have that this year. So I think this series, along with, the mess we've been talking about, Honda, we know, is not happy. There's all the rumors of NASCAR looking for that fourth manufacturer. Honda not happy. This is just a big mess that Roger has on his hand and the entire IndyCar team.
Yeah, if Honda pulls out, then I mean, I don't even want to think about the state of it. I mean, I know Honda supplied all 33 engines for many years, but I don't know if Chevy would be willing to do that, or what kind of solution you'd have to find at that point. Yeah, that would be very concerning. But again, I think what we have to do is find something. The status quo is not working. And I know people are going to say it was a record-breaking purse, it was record-breaking attendance, record-breaking, at least post-reunification viewership. I think it was the highest rated since 2008, right? 2008 would have been the first year of reunification. So basically, the most viewers we've had watching the 500 since the sport was brought back together, and that's all great. But as I said on Twitter a couple hours ago, I'm not going to complain about that number. It does kind of boggle my mind, though, because of everything I just laid out. Was the state of the series right now. I can't help but think what that ceiling might be, what that number could possibly be. And I know the blackout was lifted. That certainly has to have helped the numbers, right? So we've got to keep that in context in mind. But what number could we get to if the series were healthier and in a better place? And I think that's just, again, it just adds to the frustration, knowing what might have been, what could have been, what could possibly still be. But we have to change a lot of things to make sure we can get there. And I think that starts with an independent organization coming in and running things like technical inspection and sanctioning the sport and everything. Roger Penske, as much of a legend that he is, and all due respect to what he has accomplished in this sport, I don't think is the right person to be manning the ship, so to speak, right now. And I think we need to, as David was saying in his video this afternoon, I think it might be beneficial to open up the rule book a little bit. Maybe not go all the way back to, bring what you run and run wild like it was 60 years ago. I mean, there are plenty of things that we don't do 60 years ago, like we did 60 years ago, for good reason, right? The sport continues to evolve for safety reasons and whatnot. I'm not saying we need to go back to, completely open-ended rule books that, doesn't have any sort of regulations or anything, but, maybe moving away from a spec design wouldn't be such a bad idea. Maybe opening things up for more creative interpretation so that teams could push the edge of innovation and trying to find that 3/10 or whatever without having to resort to such tactics that break the rule book and result in us getting these massive penalties handed out. I think it's very, I shouldn't say easy, but I think the blueprint is there, and there's a possibility that, we could look at these things and try to implement them. Maybe not all next year, but start implementing some of them next year. And then in 1 or 2 years, whenever the new car comes out, because that's the other thing, we're 13, 14 years into the DW12 era, right? I mean, we need a new chassis desperately. It's the perfect time to reinvent ourselves in terms of what we're doing in this series. And if we can do that, then I would be happy to see that take place. And, I'm sure I'd love to start tuning into IndyCar races again. But where I'm at right now, it's so hard for me to get into it because, and again, this is not to take anything away from Palou's dominance, but when it is harder to pass, I mean, and when Palou is the fastest out of everybody on a Saturday, or, I mean, it hasn't been as entertaining of a product here. I remember the Fox booth going crazy during the Grand Prix, right? We finally have a caution, right? I mean, it's just, I don't know. Again, we could be here all night, but we cannot pretend that everything is okay. Sometimes toxic positivity, I think, is just as bad as toxic negativity. And I'm not trying to fall into toxic negativity here. I think I have reasons for feeling the way I'm feeling. I'm not trying to, again, cast aspersions out over anybody that watched the race and had a good time at the Speedway and enjoyed it. I'm glad you did if you were there. But I remember social media posts in January or February from the INDYCAR account saying, like ins and outs in 2025. Must have been January, I think, because it was the start of a new year. And one of the outs was negative talk. And I just kind of roll my eyes at that, thinking like, okay, so we're not allowed to have any sort of negative thoughts on anything we don't like in the series. We're not allowed to have opinions that maybe go against the grain a little bit and provide constructive criticism here. I just think that falls into that trap a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think either Roger Penske or Doug Bowles are acting like nothing is wrong, per se. I think they're both very upset. And I mean, Roger Penske, I mean, my heart, I know his name is on a part of the problem, but my heart breaks for him because of how much he loves that place and that he's in charge of, and he wants it to be successful and flourish. And I said it last week, Ben, I've never seen Doug Bowles so like with fire in his eyes when he had to talk to Kevin Lee about the whole thing as it was happening, and just like, look, we've got this, we're doing this, and then had the press conference on Wednesday before the 500, and just basically said, look, we're going to have to look into an independent officiating. We're going to, like they said, we are going to look into that, and because what we're doing is not the way to go going forward.
Yeah. And you say your heart breaks for Roger. I think Roger's heart breaks himself. I think he's been open about that and said that.
Right.
So I want to, be completely fair here and say that, I mean, he fired Tim Cindric, for crying out loud. I mean, it's not like he's just blowing this off and not taking it seriously. They are taking this seriously. And I'd like to believe that it had to have been painful. And I'd like to think that they're trying to find solutions here. But again, anybody that is saying like, oh, it's the month of May, it's the Indy 500, let's just band together and watch and pretend like nothing's wrong. Like if that's still where your mentality is at, then I don't know. I don't think the series can continue to go on like this, like status quo is right now.
Yeah, that's a big thing. You can't just ignore that, oh, everything's fine. It's the month of May. Let's just enjoy the race when you have this controversy. I mean, as someone that remembers the Indy Racing League card split. I mean, there was a lot of discussions. There was meetings before to try to prevent such a split, but Tony George had his way, and the teams had their way. That split occurred. It's interesting because when Roger took over IndyCar IMS, he talked about stewardship a lot, that this was a stewardship role, not like a job promotion or acquisition, even though really it is a property acquisition, a series, the racetrack. But I feel like the big thing is, as much as he cares about everything, you can't have your name present everywhere. I mean, I'm grateful we got Doug. He's done a great job when he was in charge of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Remember when the NASCAR race had that curb come up? Who was one of the people there to work on it, clean it up? Doug had to remove his suit coat. He was there cleaning it up. It's a good thing we have him there now, because I think he did a really good job of, okay, we're going to make these penalties. He went to the press conference like, this is why we put them in the back row, because of the gravity of the situation. This is the biggest race in the world. We got to do something. And now you got another penalty coming off the conclusion of the biggest race in the world. My goodness, he's going to have a really busy few weeks. And I personally feel like it's a good thing he's in charge, because I think he's really the person that has the credibility with everyone, while Roger, he needs to work on trying to rebuild that.
Yeah, totally agree. And, like I said, I think that there is a path forward here, but it is hard to deny that it is a tough week, I think, in many respects to be an IndyCar fan. And, again, we can only just hope that, they're and trust that they're trying to do the right thing here and move on from the situation that we find ourselves in here. But I'm glad that, the steps have been taken to hold these teams accountable. It'll be interesting to see if any personnel decisions are made on the Andretti and Prema side of things as well here, to be fair here. But yeah, I mean, just again, to be sitting here 24 hours after the race and be talking about the guy in second place being thrown back to 31st instead of what a great race we had, what a great winner we had, what great storylines we've had in a month of May that has been so desperate for them. Again, the frustration is the only word that I can keep coming back to. Kobe here in the chat saying Doug Bowles is genuinely good person and leader, cares about the fan experience, and very hands-on in his approach. Yeah, Joe, who can ever forget when that curb came up at the NASCAR race, and he was one of the ones out there, like you were saying, on the scene of the crash accident, trying to fix that curb. But yeah, I mean, Brandon, if you want to kind of take the last word here, I don't know if you have anything else to add. We're 40 minutes into this discussion here. I think we've covered a lot of the main talking points, but you want to kind of put a bow on it here?
I mean, in the best way that I can. I don't really know if there's a really neat way to put a bow on it other than to focus on where the focus should be on the winner, Alex Palou, and just has set himself in the stratosphere after winning the Indianapolis 500 and has shown us that he is the greatest American open wheel talent of our generation. And that is it. Like he's set from wherever he wants to go from here. I think another championship is coming this season easily, and it's going to be exciting to see where he goes to, whether that's a Cadillac seat or staying here in the States. We'd sure love to keep him. But I mean, I'm sure maybe the rest of the paddock wouldn't want to keep him. Maybe they want him to go over to Cadillac so they can start competing for wins. But I mean, it feels like Jimmy Johnson all over again in our circle, sort of in remembrance of this kind of dominance. It's just it's amazing to be able to witness it in real time.
Yeah, well, I think the last great champion to drive that 10 car, well, not that Tony Kanaan isn't a great champion, but his
Felix Rosenqvist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosenqvist there too. Yeah. I mean, there's been some good drivers in that car since Dario. But of course, Tony's success in particular came mostly before he joined the Ganassi team. But Dario taking 4 championships in 5 years. I know the first one was with Andretti, and then the second year that he didn't win the title, he was off racing NASCAR. But that's what I think of when I look at what Palou's doing here. And as Kobe mentioned on the wrap-up show, he could skip the next 2 races. There'd be no way for him to lose the points lead here. So I think well on his way to a 4th championship. And yeah, I mean, if he stays long enough, maybe the 7 that Foyt has could be in jeopardy too. I mean, I see no reason to believe that he's not going to continue to perform at a high level for another 15, maybe even another 20 years. I mean, we haven't really talked about Takuma Sato. He was in the mix, leading a quarter of this race, probably maybe should have won it in many respects. And that would have been his 3rd, and what a story that would have been too. And as he approaches 50, as Elio is 50, was 46 the last time he won his 4th. I mean, those guys have proven that you can be in your mid to late 40s, even approaching 50, and still be very competitive in this series. I think Palou certainly has an opportunity to do that if he wants it. But again, if an F1 seat comes calling, I could see him taking that up too. One final thing before we move on to our race recaps from this weekend. Kobe brought this question up in the chat here. Again, another thing that we were probably hoping to be talking about, but we haven't really touched on so far. The double, unfortunately, did not go Kyle Larson's way again. At least this time he did get to compete in both races, but maybe it's a blessing in disguise that he crashed out of the race and had to leave early, because he might not have made it had he stayed in Indianapolis, or maybe would have had to be pulled from the car and had it retired. He was already running towards the back anyway, but very frustrating day for him. When Scott McLaughlin crashed at the start, when Larson came back around the track, he gave McLaughlin a thumbs up. Brandon, what were your thoughts on seeing that on board?
Well, I didn't see it till today that he did that, but I just want to give it the benefit of the doubt and not, you're not going to catch me just bashing on Kyle Larson for doing what a race car driver would do. I think this is one of those things where the adrenaline is talking. You're at the beginning of the race, just kind of restless and just obstruction. Hey, nice job. It only became ironic because he, bended into turn two. Not much further after that because of the chaos, the cold chaos that was the first half of this year's 500 miler. Nothing more much to say about it other than it's funny to look back at.
I think you hit it right there perfectly, Brandon, that the adrenaline, I mean, we know the delay, sitting in the car waiting for the rain to go past. He was looking at his watch, the stress, and then it's like, okay, we're getting going. And then
It's like,
I can't imagine getting that radio. Oh, extra caution lap.
yellow.
And then he sees Scott McLaughlin. He's just like, I just want to get this race going.
Right.
Gave a thumbs up, not thinking about it. And I think that goes back to just the stress of what he was going through with the double, everything going on, and what turned out to be a pretty lousy day. And I think we're all just wondering, like, will we ever, within the next few years, see another person try to double? Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's a story. That's another story for another day because we need both series to want to encourage drivers to be attempting it in the first place too.
Yeah, well, I think a noon start time would help.
It would, yeah.
Again, to borrow a phrase from David Land there, and
And
when I
Monaco
say
moving
noon,
to a different day.
yeah, that too. I know there's some. I think the Allison brothers were maybe doing the double, so to speak, back in the 70s, but they weren't run on the same day. I remember that story coming up on the download several years back. But when I say noon, I mean drop the green flag at noon, not national anthem at noon, not opening ceremonies at noon, not driver intros at noon. Drop the green flag at noon. I think it would give a bigger window and maybe less risk and allow for a caution-filled race or a short weather delay to not spoil a double attempt completely. And I think that it might give, especially teams on the NASCAR side, because of the whole waiver deal that we went through last year, it would maybe give them some confidence that maybe they could do this. Or you have to see an IndyCar driver do it the other way and go do a one-off in the 600. Joe, I see what you put in the private chat here. Is that breaking news? Was that just broken, or Robert Schwartzman, Rookie of the Year?
7 minutes ago, Rookie of the Year for the 109th run into Indy 500, Robert Schwartzman. So,
okay, that's and again, I don't have the results off the top of my head. I don't know where the top rookie finisher ended up. If that was Schwartzman, obviously, I think winning the pole thoroughly deserved, because it's, of course, it's not just who is the highest finisher in the race. It's the entire month is taken into consideration. So congratulations. Looks like it's 7:40 p.m. So yeah, but just coming out a few minutes ago from the IndyCar account. First oval pole sitter for the 109th running Indy 500 Rookie of the Year at Schwartzman. Rob took it all in this month of May. He certainly did. So congratulations to him. And again, one of the great stories in Indy 500 qualifying in the last several decades, really. I think first time since the 80s, 83, I want to say, that rookie qualified and pole for the 500. So thoroughly deserved. Congratulations to him. And again, a shame that the race didn't go his way a little bit more, but a much deserved accolade there nonetheless. All right. Well, we will leave it there. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. I don't know if you were expecting to be here for almost 50 minutes here, but that's where the conversation.
Surprise, you got the whole show.
Sometimes. I want to thank you again for taking some time out of your Memorial Day weekend here. Do you have a shining moment or any final thoughts you want to share with us before you leave the stream here tonight?
Well, I think the final moment, shining moment, I have to give it to who was just named Rookie of the Year. What a positive story that was, considering what that team overcame, struggling, missing most of the first half of practice in the first day, then coming out, okay, he has speed, goes out there, steals the pole, steals the attention. Well, he was really, I think, the bright spot since last Sunday up until the start of the race, because everybody was curious, how would he do? He brought some sponsorships in, and I think it really shows how, even though he was on track for Formula 2, Formula 1, all that was prima there, he comes here and he talks about how he remembers watching the Indy 500 from Monaco, He understands the history. That really shows the prestige of this event, and I think he has to be the shining moment. I know I gave a different one yesterday, but for today, I'll give it to the Indy 500 Rookie Year for 2025, Robert Schwartzman.
All right, like I said, very well deserved, and we'll see how that team is able to respond to this. Obviously, mixed emotions for them this weekend too, sitting on pole with one car, but getting disqualified with the other. And actually, on that note, I know Callum Ilott just sent out a 2-letter tweet just saying, "Oh," when the penalties were announced. So I can't believe that he would have just found out the same way we did, right? I mean, I would think he would have had to have known, but that tweet may be suggesting otherwise. Very interesting reaction from him. But again, your heart goes out to, and Brandon, I'm glad you brought that up as well. I don't want people sending attacks towards anybody really, but especially the drivers, on a personal level or anything like that. We know that, they a lot of times they just drive the cars, and their mechanics are the ones that are caught trying to find those extra couple of tenths. And that's a situation that we want to avoid anybody sliding into DMs or sending hateful messages drivers' way. There's of course no place for that. So we certainly don't condone that kind of behavior. But we want to send our best to Callum. I'm sure he's feeling very disappointed with this result here. But at the same time, for Robert Schwartzman, thoroughly deserved, like I mentioned. And Joe, thank you for that one shining moment, and thank you for joining us here on the Encore show tonight. It was great to have you.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. I need a sip of my Baja Blast here. After
good.
all,
While you do that, I will let people know that Chip Ganassi winning the Indianapolis 500 this year. This continues the streak of Chip liking not only winners but red cars. He's got some red here on the DHL Honda, so it continues that streak that's been going on since the year 2000.
Yeah, there you go.
Little tidbit.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Because I was talking about this with Brock on my personal podcast last week. Everybody remembers the role that Dan Weldon played in the Panther team, and then Panther finishing second again with Hildebrand. It was actually 4 runner-ups in a row because Vitor Mira finished second in 2008. And I remember even as an 8-year-old kid watching that, my heart broke for him because that was his 8th second place finish. He's arguably the best driver, certainly I think in the IRL era, to never win a race. And 2 of those seconds came in Indianapolis. That was certainly a heartbreaking moment for him. But if you go back and reverse that result, how unfathomable would it be for Scott Dixon to have never won this race, right? It's almost crazy enough to think like Mario Andretti, he's only won it once. But it just goes to show, I think, with the talent that each of those 2 guys have, that each of them only won it one time, and they're arguably top 3 all-time IndyCar drivers. It's not easy to win this race. And Alex Palou is certainly making it look easy right now. But, in the years after Target left, that Dixon he had Camping World on the car, and obviously had that really frightening accident in 2017. And I guess PNC Bank ever since, just hasn't been able to get the job done. He's always had speed. He's won how many pole awards, but always seems to have some sort of issue that takes him out of it. So we'll see. He'll I'm sure be back next year to try it again. You don't want to talk about another ageless wonder there. Scott Dixon's certainly one of your guys, but yeah. Let's move on now. Let's get into the Charlotte recap. And again, we might roll through this a little bit quicker, at least on the National Touring Series side here, because a couple of really big shockers from Xfinity and Trucks here with our race winners, Corey Heim, we'll get to in just a moment, but a Cup driver. That's the 3rd time today. I guess something's up with Xfinity in our area here. That has to be on my end. You guys have been fine.
Not quite as fast as Xfinity Internet.
Yeah, not quite. Do we have you back now?
Yeah, we've got you. Got a copy.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on tonight, but we're making the best of it. It seems to only be dipping for a few seconds. It's not like we're having massive outages or anything, so we'll make it work. Appreciate all of you for sticking with us, but just saying what a shock it is here. Cup driver winning an Xfinity race. You don't see that every day.
But usually on Saturdays.
Yeah. William Byron sweeping the stages here. Congratulations, I guess. And no disrespect to anybody working on that team, but Brock Beard calls them start and win drivers for a reason there. He swept the stages, won the race, and the playoff points leaderboard is completely unchanged as a result. I don't know what you want me to say about it. We move on to Connor Zilic, a great run for him, to almost taking the fight to his factory teammate, I guess you could say, Junior Motorsports and Hendrick Motorsports there. Second place run for him. Great to have him back. Certainly
back in the car.
Wishing him the best in his recovery from a Talladega accident. Nick Sanchez, a strong run for him in third. Sorry, Brandon, you want to chime in on
Zilic? On Zilic, also congratulations on making it through the 600 miles. It's not the way he wanted it to go, but still a rookie there in a Red Bull 87, getting all that experience there in his first time.
Yeah, another good point. And Connor Zilic, unlike my internet right now, as fast as Xfinity 10G this weekend here.
You'll find that at the Chicago Street Course.
Yeah, there you go. Nick Sanchez again as well, strong run for him in third. Justin Allgaier looked like he had the race pretty much in hand there in the final stage. Got caught out on some strategy there. Some late race cautions helped him, I think, from falling further, but he did. And I'm just realizing now, I'm sorry, these are the unofficial results. Of course, we mentioned during the IndyCar segment, Sammy Smith was actually disqualified. So that would send him back to the last place finish here. It's not Parker Retzlaff. Apologies again. I guess we copied the unofficial results by accident, but that's all right. We've got the official results for you in the script. So Sammy Smith getting that disqualification, and ironic again that he was the one that benefited from Jesse Love's misfortune, Rockingham winning that race. But what comes around goes around, I guess. So he, I guess you could say, silver lining, it wasn't a win this time for him, but that's a huge chunk of points nonetheless. So we'll see if that comes back to bite him at all. Obviously, I think he's already locked in to the playoffs with his victory, but we'll see if that makes a difference later in the year. But Dean Thompson, what it does is elevates him up to the top 5, and a great run for him as well. So I want to make sure we give him a shout out, as well as Ryan Ellis again at 9th place finish, becoming an 8th, a long-awaited top 10 for him. Brandon, what was your reaction to seeing one of the journeyman independent drivers of this series have a career best run?
Yeah, a huge moment there for Ryan Ellis this weekend at Charlotte, and my colleague Scotty Sprinkle got a great picture of him getting a hug from one of his either driver teammates or someone there with the crew that was congratulating him there on that top 10. Ryan Ellis has been waiting a long time for that kind of result. And also congratulations to Dean Thompson for a top 5 too.
Yeah, some great runs for all these guys here. Josh Williams got promoted to 6th, one of his best runs in a College car. I know that it hasn't been the kind of run of success that some of us were expecting when he joined that team last year, but maybe that's a sign things are getting turned in the right direction. Of course, AJ Allmendinger had a great run in the Cup Series race with a 4th place finish for College. So again, maybe that's a sign things are turning around there for them as well. Christian Eckes up there in the top 10, as well as Sheldon Creed. You got the Haas guys on the edge of the top 10 there, 11th and 12th with Sam Mayer. Again, just to clarify, these are the unofficial results, and that is my fault because Joe put these graphics together for us before the show. I clearly didn't look at them closely enough because I didn't notice Sammy Smith was still up there in 5th place, but that change has been made official after post-race inspection here. And that, like I said, promotes Dean Thompson up to the top 5. Very well-deserved good run for him, and a lot of these guys up here in the top 10. So some great runs there. And we move on now to the Truck Series race results. And like I said, if you've been following this series this year, again, not too much of a surprise who was up front. Corey Heim, his 4th win of the year. He could probably easily have 4 more had things gone slightly differently for him to start this year. But Brandon, obviously there's a lot of questions as to, is there a seat available for him at Cup teams right now? But in your estimation, is this a guy that should not be in this series next year and should be racing on Sundays instead, with how dominant he's been so far in 2025 and really the last 3 seasons now with Tricon?
Yeah, the way things are tracking, he really should be moving up to somewhere more his talent level. And I think the Cup Series is where he'll find that. But you're right. The question is, where does he find that seat? And we see a lot of Toyota drivers move manufacturers because of that same problem. What was the running joke? How many drivers has Toyota lost to Chevy or
Ford? Yeah.
or Ford.
them.
You know, so I mean, take your pick. Who is he going to find there? I don't think it's a. I really don't think it's a matter of will he do it. I think it's where will he go, and who will be moving around to make a ride open for him. I think all three manufacturers are on the table for him. It's just a matter of where he's willing to go to, and what kind of sponsorship opportunities will show up there. Certainly, you would think Safe Flight will follow if it's Toyota, but yeah, he's another level of another rung on the talent level, and needs to be going somewhere higher here, and got to be winning that championship, if not for something crazy happening at Phoenix.
Yeah, and could easily, I think, have one already had, he not had that running with Carson Hocevar, which was very unfortunate, but certainly proving that he has the talent to move up. And again, I don't know if Legacy would be in the market for a third charter. I know they got their situation with Rick Ware and that lawsuit going on right now, but if the 84 car went full time, if Jimmy decided he wanted to be fully done from driving, or maybe I guess they could run a fourth unchartered car for him as well, because I think it's a 3-car limit for full-time chartered entries now with this new agreement, right? We've seen we've seen some I think that was what he did with 2311 now that I think about it, right? That was the Cup start that he made, was that 4th car for that team. So if Legacy can get that third charter, maybe that would be an option for him. Maybe he replaces Riley Herbst if Herbst can't turn it around 2311, or maybe who knows how much longer Denny's going to be driving. I imagine he won't be this year, but he hangs it up. Maybe it will be if he wins a championship, but I'd imagine he's got at least a couple more years left in him. So I don't know if anything's open at JGR for him right now. And if there isn't anything open at the Toyota stable, then I think Chevy and Ford certainly have to have that number on speed dial. I imagine that he could be another prospect that Toyota loses because there's no room for them to move him up.
Yeah, they've run into this problem before, and it would be a shame if Toyota were to lose someone like Corey Heim. Unbelievable if that happens. Yeah,
so again, I think he is easily your odds-on championship favorite right now. Obviously, we frequently talk, is it a 2-horse race, or is there a big 3, or there are multiple guys you could see make him a championship for? And again, to your point, Brandon, with how crazy this format is, you just never know. The 2023 race is certainly proof of that. But again, and there were 2 Cup drivers in this race. Ross Chastain won the 600 yesterday. Kyle Busch is all-time great in this series, especially
Atlanta winner this year.
Yeah, yep, and he's beaten both of them. And Caden Honeycutt as well, great run for him. Lane Riggs seeming to bounce back a little bit. I know he obviously, you want to talk about races Corey Heim could have won. That was another one at North Wilkesboro, obviously.
Also, apparently, a really nice save from Lane Riggs that we didn't see on TV out of turn 4 that he put on his personal social media there. If you want, you can go back and see the images of losing the truck there.
Yeah, well, that's been a theme with the broadcasts in recent years, right? You don't see it on TV, but
you see it on Prime. You see it on Prime.
And in this era of social media, it'll get posted to the driver accounts as well, or somebody will be taking a video from the stands. So we can certainly be thankful for that. But again, well done to Corey Heim there. And again, not as much you can say about it because it's been the same story all year with him. Again, I think the biggest story is just when, not if, a Cup opportunity opens up for him. If he could find that spot, because he certainly belongs in that series, racing on Sundays, if his talent is any indication. Yeah,
no doubt he's going to leapfrog. I would be really shocked if they just relegated him to a future Grand National sponsor here ride in 26.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye on that too. But we'll move on. In the meantime, I want to say congratulations to Austin Green, the son of David Green, on winning the ARCA Menards Series race, his first ARCA victory. Had to hold off a hard-charging William Sawalich, who picked up some damage in an incident we'll talk about in just a moment here. But again, lots of good competition in this race too. You see Grant Empfinger, Truck Series veteran and regular, finishing second. LeVar Scott continuing to knock on that door, breaking through. You got to think at some point he'll be getting that victory if he continues to run like this. Andy Jankowiak continuing to outrun the resources and equipment that he has. Another strong top 5 finish. Thad Moffitt bouncing back from the disappointment of the last couple of weeks here. Laney Bice, again, preview for the Women in Motorsports show, a solid top 10 finish after getting caught up with that little bit of damage as well. But I want to talk about the guy in ninth place there, Garrett Mitchell, best known as Cletus McFarland. We talked about him a little bit on the show this year. He made another appearance in that Rhett Jones 30 car this week at Charlotte. Said it was completely different and a lot tougher experience for him than Daytona and Talladega were. Completely different track, obviously, a mile and a half. He was on the front row during a restart in the middle of the race, spun the tires, and unfortunately caused some pretty severe damage to about a half dozen cars, one of which, unfortunately, was Isabella Robusto, who obviously had the wreck at Kansas, has been looking to bounce back from that. And I think in the words of David Hobbs, if she didn't have any bad luck, she would have no luck at all. The way her season has been going so far, not indicative at all of the talent that she has or the strength of the equipment that Venturini has given her, but unfortunately relegated to a 24th place finish here nonetheless. So, Brandon, it brought up some questions and conversations. There were some ARCA drivers. I know John Garrett in particular was not too happy with Cletus and saying that you should know your place, and maybe somebody that doesn't have very much racing experience should not be starting at a level like this or shouldn't be in the series at all. What's your take on Cletus McFarland being in the ARCA Menards Series now that we're 3 races into this experiment here? Obviously, he brings a large audience of his through YouTube and social media to this series, but it does come with some risks and consequences like this. He's kind of at the center of some not so pleasant attention here.
Yeah, he said it certainly is not like Daytona was. It's a different animal there when you go to Charlotte. And I did see that he also has Greg Biffle there with him as sort of a mentor, hanging around with Garrett. Yeah, it's of course it's not a good look whenever you start on the outside of the front row on a restart, and then you cause one little dip because you lose a gear there, working your way back up through the gears and take out a bunch of the field, including Isabella Robusto. And so, yeah, it didn't look good, but I don't think this means he should never be in that seat with Rhett Jones or in this series to begin with. I think that's kind of cheap, after something that happens like this. But and also I think the ARCA Menards Series is very fortunate to have Cletus McFarland be a part of their series as heavily as he is right now, with the attention that he gets on his own, bringing that into the series. And I'm not saying that's the only, like that they should be thankful just because he's got the popularity, but I mean, he may not be the naturally work their way up through the ranks sort of driver like the rest of these here, but I'd say he has as good a chance. He deserves as good of a shot as anyone else here in this field. And so, I mean, I would give him a little more time before we start saying he needs to walk away from it. I mean, if anything, certainly the publicity is really good for the series. And I mean, I hate it for Isabella Robusto as well, as she was trying to bounce back there from Kansas, and you see they're ending up 24th on the day.
Yeah, and she will. She's still got plenty of starts this year. I can't help but think back to Gracie Trotter 4 years ago, who had some bad luck to start her Venturini stint in 2021, but she didn't have the benefit of running a full schedule. She was only on a 10-race deal and kind of fizzled out for her, unfortunately, after that. But I think it's inevitable at some point. It's got to turn around for Isabella, and it did at Talladega. To be fair, she had a strong third-place run there, and could maybe replicate that, in some races coming up. But yeah, unfortunate for her, especially, and everybody that got taken out in that incident. But Brandon, I go back and forth on this because I think there is something to be said for what some people are saying about this Cletus McFarland experiment, if you will, in the ARCA Menards Series. But if he were doing this in Xfinity, I think it would have a little bit more merit to it.
For sure, yeah.
The ARCA Menards Series is meant to be a proving ground and a learning ground for not just young drivers, but older drivers, who are just out there because they love to race, or people looking to have an easier way of entry into stock car racing that isn't as serious as the top 3 levels NASCAR. And I think Cletus has done the right thing here by going into the ARCA platform rather than trying to find an Xfinity ride or even a truck glide, certainly much less Cup Series seat. It's not to say that he maybe doesn't have Cup ambitions 3 to 5 to 7 years down the road. But as for right here, right now, I think I can't really say I have much of a problem with him being in the ARCA Menards Series. And I don't think, I mean, as evidence, even with the issue and the slight damage that he caused, he still came away with the top 10. You know, I don't think it's a lack of speed. I think it's a lack of experience for him. But again, everybody's got to learn somewhere. And I don't think that he's nearly as much of a hazard out there as, again, with all due respect to the smaller teams. I think I was hearing on social media this weekend how many teams were being warned by ARCA because we're at 1.5 miles that they had to pick up the minimum speed. I think the minimum speed threshold needs to be a little bit higher in ARCA at some of these tracks personally. But, you know, some of those back markers that are out there, again, not because they want to be running that slow. They're doing the best with the limited resources that they have, and that gap is massive in a series like this. But when there is such a big speed discrepancy there, I can't sit here and say that Garrett Mitchell playing the Cletus McFarland YouTube character trying to bring some positive spotlight and attention to this series is any more of a danger out there than some of the cars that are running so far off the pace that seem to 9 times out of 10 at least not cause a major issue with you know, the cars that are up there competing for the win. They all seem to get around them most of the time without issue. And I don't think Cletus McFarland is as big of an obstacle as those cars are. Again, I don't think it's a speed issue. I think it's an experience issue, much like what we've been talking about with Catherine Legg the last several weeks. She tries to make this next chapter for career work in stock car racing. So I think that's going to come with time, but I don't see a reason to deny him the opportunity to come race in the ARCA Menards Series and gain that experience and bring that spotlight to this platform.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if it was Xfinity or Cup or Truck, we would be having a completely different conversation. But yeah, I mean, if like someone like Pee Wee Herman wanted to come be in racing, I would send him to the ARCA Menards Series. That's just where that needs to happen. I mean, anybody.
Frankie Muniz.
Yeah, Frankie Muniz. Yeah. Well, I mean, Frankie Muniz does have a little more, the Atlantic open wheel background and things like that. So set up a little bit more for success, but still, anyone entry level, if you've got the funds, if you got the backing, you need to go to ARCA.
Yeah, and again, I think, I mean, Cletus is a car guy. Like, it's not like he doesn't know how to go fast and drive cars, right? And
he owns he owns the Soto Speedway now, known as the Freedom Factory. I mean,
yeah, and he has racing it. Like, if you go to the third turn, it's not as extensive of a resume, but he does have some racing experience in stadium super trucks, which again I know is a very different discipline. But you know, it's not like he's one of the Paul brothers out there, you know, trying to YouTube his way into this sport here. I think
he's not putting up pay-per-view fights. Don't worry.
Yeah, he's a little more qualified, I think, than they are. Not to say that he's got the most extensive resume out there and that he shouldn't be held accountable for his mistakes, because he did make a mistake and it unfortunately ruined a couple of drivers' nights here while he was able to carry on and still come away and salvage a top 10. So I'm not saying he's above criticism there, but to say he doesn't belong in the series, I think is a little bit of a step too far. So again, hopefully he can turn it around and we see him back out here again a couple more times later this year.
And also, he has more personality than most of the National Series grids combined.
There's that too.
Just being honest. You don't have many good characters.
You guys are desperate for personality. I think you got quite a lot of it.
He's full of it.
In Garrett Mitchell. So yeah, for sure. All right. Not the only ARCA race happening this weekend. The ARCA Menards Series West was in action in Colorado. I want to say congratulations to Jake Bollman, the 100th victory in the series for Bill McAnally Racing. So well done to that team. Kyle Keller finishing second, Trevor Huddleston third, Eric Johnson Jr., friend of the show. Of course, we had him on after Phoenix last year. He finishes fourth. Tanner Reif rounds out the top 5. Really good championship battle going on between all those drivers here. Again, Holly Clark making her debut with a top 10. Congratulations to her. We'll have more on that on the next episode of Women in Motorsports, I'm sure. And all the way down to the 12th place finisher, Mariah Boudreau. Last car.info article coming later this week as well. But Brandon, I know you didn't get to catch the race live, but you certainly heard what happened. There was a lot of weather out in Colorado. They only got 60 of the 150 laps in, not quite to halfway, but they still said that's close enough. We're going to call it anyway. The weather doesn't look like it's going to lighten up here. So they decided to use that clause, extenuating circumstances in the rule book, much like Chicago with the Xfinity Series in 2023, they said it's going to be too much effort. We're just going to call it slightly short of halfway. Are you okay with the decision that ARCA officials made?
With those extreme circumstances like that, and I guess it was sort of the same with the first Chicago street course for Xfinity in 23, it certainly is not ideal, and it's not how anyone wants it to go down. But I mean, when you look at the logistical nightmare that was before them, if they really wanted to get it completed, I guess it's okay. But I'm not. It's okay, but I'm not happy about it. I mean, with all sorts of stick and ball sports and with racing, you want to get at least halfway before you call it official, and that really should be your standard. And I think that is their standard. But just that extreme case there made it where they had to do that. It's not fun. It's not what we want. It's not what the fans want that are purchasing tickets to go out and see the event in person. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I think if you get a quarter of the way and you have situations like this where it's clear the weather's not going to let up, and we should also make a note, a lot of these crew members working on these teams, I mean, it's not like this is the Cup Series or even the Truck Series out here, right? You know, a lot of these are volunteer crew members that, you know, don't want to come back on a Monday. A lot of these fans, I'm sure, would not have shown back up on a Monday or even a Sunday, to be fair. You know, so I think that given those circumstances, you get 40% of the race in. I personally don't have an issue with them calling it, and I'd rather them do that than just scrap it from the rule book entirely and say that, you know, the race got canceled. We're not going to count these results here, because I don't think that's fair to, you know, Jake in particular, who did run up front and was leading the race at the time that it was called and gets credit with the win. I'm glad that they did that, but I do think, you know, if it comes to a situation where you only get 10 laps in and then something like this happens, then that's probably not enough. You know, I'd like to see you get at least 25 to 50% in. We can maybe pull the extreme circumstances card like this here. And of course, the main goal is always to get to halfway. But, you know, if you can't even get 25% of the race in, I could understand being a little disappointed and saying, you know, we really should scrap this entirely, or we should do what we have to do and come back Monday if we have to. But, you know, I think they got enough of it in to at least say a race took place, a very short race, much shorter race than expected, which again is unfortunate, but what are you going to do about the weather sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Here's an interesting question. I know Joe said he'd be watching us once he left the stream here for tonight, but asking, should ARCA adopt partial points for races called short of halfway? I guess maybe taking a page out of Formula One's book there with half points and all that. Brandon, what would you think of that idea?
Oh, that might be a good compromise. Yeah, I really don't have too much of an opinion on it. I don't know. I think I'd rather just keep it full points for something like ARCA West. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why Formula One has that rule in place, and obviously we don't see it very often. We saw it during the crazy 2021 season, obviously with that farce of a race that I don't even want to say happened because it didn't happen, but points were awarded. I guess it goes down in the record books as having happened at Spa. You know, but again, I think that anytime you see those situations in place, it's usually not for great circumstances there. So again, it's so rare in this series that, you know, I think it's only the second time in however many years that I can recall, at least, that they've said we're going to do this and call it, even though we're not quite at halfway yet. I don't know, but it's worth putting an extra set of circumstances to change the point system up for something that very rarely happens in this sport. So that's just my take on it. But it is an interesting idea. So, you know, maybe there's something to that as well. All right. And finally tonight, Monaco hosted Formula 2 and Formula 3 alongside the Formula 1 Monaco Grand Prix, of course. I want to say congratulations to all the winners. We'll scroll through the results as we talk about the driver I want to talk about here. Unfortunately, no Josh or Omi tonight, but I know they were very busy with covering the busiest weekend in motorsports, so they're getting some much-deserved rest here today. So you can scroll through the results here as we take you through them and see where your favorite driver ended up. But I think, Brandon, for us here in America, we have to talk about the feature race winner, Jack Crawford, second straight Formula 2 weekend that he comes away with one of the race victories. He's now fifth in points. He was fifth in points last year. Do the math, 20 and 20. That would get him to 40 points for an FIA super license. Do you see him as a dark horse for the Cadillac seat, or do you think Cadillac is going to want a driver lineup with a little bit more experience their inaugural season in Formula One?
Yeah, it might be a gamble to. I mean, that's why he's a dark horse, right? I mean, there certainly are some more experienced contenders that Cadillac might be considering before they go to someone like Jack Crawford. But also, I mean, there is some good merit in going with someone that is, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed like Crawford. I mean, born in 2005, that's crazy to me. Fifth in F2 last year, and part of that Aston Martin Young Driver Development Program. He's got the he's got the youth, and also he's American. That is going to be a critical plus for being a part of Cadillac. So yeah, he definitely should be considered as a dark horse, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he ends up being one of the two that they choose.
Yeah, I think obviously everybody's going to think of Colton Herta, and Mario Andretti is still on the board at that team. That's the Andretti involvement that we still have. Obviously, Michael took a big step back from that, trying to get that project off the ground. But, Colton finished second in IndyCar points last year. That puts him on 30 points, I think 31 total, when he's going to have that 10th place finish in 23, I think it was, to look at. So hypothetically, I still think Colton could run. I think he can run up to 10 FP1 sessions. If they wanted him that badly, they could strike a deal with a team to put him in enough FP1s to just get the super license that way, not have to worry about that. But of course, ideally, he would finish high enough in the IndyCar points this year if they wanted that for him. But the latest that I've heard is that it sounds like that might be off the table for him at this point, and he's firmly established in the IndyCar series. So if they wanted an American driver over at Cadillac, I think Jack Crawford would probably be the most logical solution. Again, assuming he finishes high enough in the standings to get that super license. But, again, if he only finishes fourth or fifth in points, which again would qualify him, would be enough. But it would remind me a lot of Logan Sargent. And I think looking back at Logan Sargent, maybe you could say, obviously he finished fourth in the standings in 2022 and was able to get enough points for a super license off of that. But for the sake of his career, it probably would have been best for him to spend one more year in that series before getting the promotion to Williams, which ultimately, of course, ended up being ill-fated with him only lasting a year and a half before he lost his ride to Franco Colapinto. So I wouldn't want to move Jack Crawford up too early. I know it's his third year in Formula 2, so I think, from doing a mathematics calculation there, I think, you could say that's certainly enough time if he were to win the championship to warrant a promotion up to Formula 1. Obviously, we still have a long way to go in the season here. But I do think he is a bit of a dark horse because we keep hearing Sergio Perez's name thrown out there. Valtteri Bottas's name, I think, has come up a couple times. It sounds like they want experience at that lineup. And maybe the American driver situation isn't as much of a priority as it sounded like it was when Andretti was the one trying to get this project off the ground. Now that Cadillac is the name that this team is going to run under, maybe sounds like that it would be a nice to have, but is not necessarily something that they're prioritizing as much as we once thought they were. So again, we'll keep our eye on it. Brandon, you bring up 2005, Kimi Antonelli was 2006, right? So
yeah, well,
we're getting to that point where
it's 20 years old for 2005. So
yeah, these drivers have been around really as long as we've been following the sport, which is just kind of crazy. I mean, we keep talking about Max Reeves on the ARCA East side. He was born in 2010. We're already at the 2010s. With some of these young drivers here coming up through the ranks. So, that's just time moving in one direction, like Brock told me earlier this week. So yeah, it'll be interesting to keep following Jack's career and wherever it takes him. Certainly want to congratulate him on the success. Nothing like feeling victory on the streets of Monaco, I'm sure. So job well done to him this weekend. And that is going to wrap up our show for tonight. Thank you all for sticking with us. Obviously, a lot of news to catch up on from Indianapolis, and then a busy weekend on our side of things with all the series we cover here as well. Brandon, no shortage of things to choose from this week. What is your one shining moment from the greatest weekend in motorsports?
Oh, it was wonderful all day long, but I think my focus for the first time, I guess, in a really long time was saying, I think the best part of the day was in Charlotte this time for me in the Coca-Cola 600, and the debut of Amazon Prime or Prime Video being the broadcast deal for these 5 races. Yeah, Adam, you touched on it. You gave it an A+, fully enjoyed it. I'm right there with you, man. I said it on X somewhere. I don't think anyone has gotten what NASCAR is in a long time better than Amazon Prime. I think NBC at times has come close, in my opinion. But man, they just knocked it out of the for their first one, knocked it out of the park. And I think I've been a little critical of Adam Alexander in the past, but he's on the top of his game. I don't know what it is. When he moved away from Fox, he's on the top of his game right now, in my opinion. And there with Dale Jr. Back in the booth for the first time in 2 years. I know Ben, you have some varying thoughts about Dale Jr. in the booth, and he's very aware of what people have thought about him in the past and currently do. He keeps up with those things and wants to get better, as he's mentioned before on the download. But him and that whole group there is going so well. I'm sorry,
Steve Letarte.
Yeah, Steve Letarte. Sorry, Steve. Yeah. Yeah. And Steve, and I saw some notes that Steve Letarte was carrying the broadcast. Well, maybe at some points, but I think that they did a knockout job. And then Danielle Trotta, it was weird hearing her not on radio and being on TV. She did an excellent job there at pre and post with Corey LaJoie and Carl Edwards coming out from Amish farming and out into the limelight. Really good to see him and being happy too at the racetrack. That was all good to see. Amazon did a great job. And also I want to give one shining moment to Carson Hocevar for, if that engine hadn't have gone south, he was either competing for the win or up there in the top three. And so a lot to look forward to in that young man's career. And I think he's getting started here and maybe on the cusp of starting to calm down some of those rookie tendencies, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I got to be honest, it wasn't just the 500. I didn't really watch any of the races yesterday. I overslept a little bit, and then went to church in Monaco. Went to church on Motorsports Sunday for the first time in several years. And obviously not everybody's a Christian, everybody's religious, but if you are a person of faith, highly recommend going to church. It's a good thing, and when you're feeling down, it's probably when you need to be there the most. So it was
be glued to it. Yeah,
be there. Yes, I'm glad I went, and I'm glad. Congratulations to Lando Norris again. Don't really feel like I missed out on as much of Monaco either, because that's the conversation. You saw George Russell's comments today. It reminded me of Tony Stewart at Talladega all those years ago, with just the insane, crazy suggestions to try to improve the racing. He was talking about 15 pit stops, or dropping water from the sky, or all sorts of crazy suggestions to try to improve the racing there. But Monaco qualifying on Saturday is still fantastic. I absolutely love watching those cars go all out around those tight streets of the Principality there. So, but I figured as soon as Lando took the pole, that was probably going to be it. So congratulations to him. And then of course, congratulations to Ross Chastain. I am going to go back and watch the broadcast here. I don't want to judge too much before I see anything more than a few clips, but I imagine, brilliant. I've heard nothing but good things about it. And Dale Jr. and Steve Letarte, I'm hopeful that chemistry will be a little bit better in the booth with only three of them, and with Adam Alexander, the pro that he is, carrying that broadcast as a play-by-play voice. And again, the post-race show, I heard like it was an hour after the checker flag, and they were still streaming on Prime. That they were taking it very seriously. I think is a great sight to see. So again, I know I've been critical of Dale in the booth in the past, but I want to go into it with an open mind here. And again, I think this is a better situation for him to be set up for success. So I again have heard nothing but good things about the coverage. And of course, we got the Earnhardt documentary, the Kyle Larson
also
documentary
excellent.
Coming on double. The Le Mans documentary that is coming out. Prime is all in, and that's great to see.
Mm-hmm.
My shining moment, I touched on it obviously during the Xfinity segment, but want to give a call to Ryan Ellis. Again, these are the unofficial results, just to clarify one more time. Ellis actually finishing in 8th after Sammy Smith's disqualification. And my goodness, I mean, talk about good things happening to good people. Ryan Ellis has been around for a long time, continuing to fight the good fight and grind away at this sport as one of the independents. And my goodness, you could just see the emotion when he got out of the car this weekend, what this meant to him. So congratulations, Sam. Certainly worthy of a shining moment. And Kobe, I believe, has a shining moment in our chat here as well. Cool to see the Indy 500 exceed expectations of TV ratings. IndyCar desperately needed some good news. Next, they need to figure out how to maintain post-Indy 500 momentum, which has been a problem. Yeah, I mean, I got to say, like I said during the show, not complaining about it at all. Please don't get that twisted there, but I am just kind of gobsmacked at the number that we got. 7 million is quite frankly astonishing when you think of Long Beach barely breaking half. We had to get one more internet tip in there, right?
One more, number 4.
Now that's
yeah, we're good. We're good.
Night.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I don't know when I cut out there again, but I guess just talking about just the total shock and awe of seeing that number come up. 7 million for the Indy 500 is astonishing when you think of Long Beach barely breaking 500,000. And that's supposed to be your second biggest race of the year. For the Indy 500 to get 14 times that almost is nothing short of incredible. Peaking at, I think, close to 8.5 during the finish. So as much as I think Fox fell short from the broadcasting perspective in many respects, they certainly marketed the hell out of it and did a great job doing that. So congratulations to them on a great number. And we'll see if they can keep that momentum up. I think that's going to be the Detroit number is going to be very interesting. We'll see what that is when that comes in.
The solution to keeping your numbers after Indianapolis is changing that Michigan address to Brooklyn, Michigan, and to the Oval, because that's what they came there for, you know.
Yeah, that would be very nice. Again, you want to flash it back to 2007. I'm old enough to remember that scary incident with Dario Franchitti getting up in the air, and I understand why IndyCar's kind of been scared away from the big ovals in recent years, but I don't know. I don't know, but I think it's been long enough that maybe the statute of limitations on that has expired, and maybe we can go back, especially now that Fontana doesn't exist. It's kind of a last great 2-mile oval that you got here. I think you can give it a shot at this point. We need another super speedway. I mean, Nashville maybe counts, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, it's very funky. It's weird. Yeah, it's concrete, and this new Dallara chassis needs to be made more with the super speedway mentality in mind, as far as safety and performance too, in my opinion. But side quest there for another day.
Yeah, it's been all talk, no action. Well, again, I shouldn't say no action, because we do have Nashville. We did get Milwaukee back, but we lost Texas in the process. So how much of a net gain is that really? I don't know.
I put an asterisk next to Nashville. They kind of did that. I feel like they did that because they had to, not because they wanted to.
That's
because of the new Titan Stadium. Yeah.
And I think the proof of that is in what's happened in Texas with the streets of Arlington and not going back to Texas Motor Speedway. So but again, we'll see. I think the blueprint is there. We just got to act on it. So thank you all again for sticking with us the last hour and a half. Thank you for welcoming me back here. I know I've been gone for a couple of weeks, but I want to thank everybody again for keeping the ship afloat while I was away. And thank you all for sticking with the show. Again, if you like what you saw tonight, you can consider joining our Patreon. Thank you again to Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew for continuing to invest in what we do here at the Grid Network. Your support means the world to us. It's what allows us to continue to build on what we're trying to do here at the Grid Network. And we appreciate the support from them, as well as all of those who have tipped us with a one-time donation here and there instead. And again, if you like what you saw this evening, you want to support us just with a one-time contribution. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can tip us through Super Chat or Super Thanks, or through the YouTube membership feature, or you can visit the Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below as well. And as always, be sure to follow us on all our social media platforms, X/Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, whatever microblogging platform you're using these days. We are on all three of them, as well as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, LinkedIn, and most importantly, like I said, subscribe to us here on the YouTube channel. Now, looking ahead at our upcoming schedule, Kobe will be back on Wednesday with Josh Birch and Matt White. Certainly no shortage of things to talk about once again on another episode of Grid Tonight, so make sure you tune into that. Keep up with our new pre-race show format this weekend. The grind never stops here at the Grid Network. Women in Motorsports will hopefully be back sometime soon as well. Some things to catch up on over there. And then we will be back, of course, following Grid Live wrap-up with our Encore show on a, I guess, what are we at now? 166.5-hour break, as Tony Reale might say. Rest in peace to Around the Horn. We will see you then right here on the Grid Network. Brandon, any final thoughts before we sign off for the evening?
One more thing. Coca-Cola 600 and Southern 500 are more entertaining to me than the Daytona 500 currently, and I don't like that, but that's the way it is right now. And also, only one driver it looks like 804 drivers have started the Indianapolis 500. Only one has finished in the top 10 in their first 7 starts, and that is Santucci Ferrucci. And I was there to witness his rookie attempt in 2019, and he's been in the top 10 ever since. That is a huge achievement that may not be talked about as much as well this weekend.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that guy one day is going to win this race if he keeps running like that. It is an incredible streak to start his career.
And for AJ Foyt.
Thank you for bringing it up, Brandon. Shouldn't go unnoticed. David Malukas inherited the second place finish. I mean, what a story that would have been for the Foyt team as well.
Look out, Penske. He's coming.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so for my final thoughts, I wasn't just hibernating during the 500.
You blinked out a little bit, but you're good. You're good.
Okay. Yeah. It didn't happen on my end this time, so that's interesting. Well, I think we're running on fumes here, so I'll keep it short and sweet. But I want to let everybody know, because I know Joe was asking in our group chat when it came out. Everybody knows I'm a big game show fan. I did get to finally check out The Luckiest Man in America. It's available for rent or for purchase digitally on Prime Video. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. If you want to learn more about the Michael Larson situation, if you want a completely accurate description of the events from Press Your Luck in 1984, the full Big Bucks Press Your Luck scandal documentary that GSN did is on YouTube. I think that's still the definitive way to learn about what happened at CBS Studios with Michael Larson there. It's not to say the movie wasn't enjoyable. They took some creative liberties that I don't know that they needed to take here, and some of those bothered me a little bit, but loved everybody in it. I think it was well done. Otherwise, I'm glad I got the chance to check it out, as well as the first 2 episodes of Earnhardt. Again, you want to talk about Prime going all in. Earnhardt was absolutely fantastic. Really looking forward to seeing how that all ties together later this week. I think that's out Thursday at 3 a.m. on the East Coast.
Not soon enough.
Yeah.
I know the story, but it doesn't make me want to see it any less.
Yeah, and looking from the previews, looks like the rivalry of Jeff Gordon is going to be talked about a little bit. Lots of stuff that I learned about Dale Jr. and Kelly as well, and what life was like for them growing up. And Kerry made an appearance, which was great to see. So we're looking forward again to those second 2 episodes that are going to drop this week and how they tie it all together. So great things going on there as well. And thank you all again for tuning into our show tonight. For Brandon Crossland, for Joe Samniego, I'm Ben Schneider. We'll see you next time right here on the Grid Network.